odd makeshifts, odious tyranny, odorous spring, offensive hostility, official asperity, olfactory sense, olive greyness, ominous rumours, omnipotent decree, omniscient affirmation, oncoming horde, onerous cares, onflowing volume, opalescent sea, opaque mass, openly disseminated, opinionated truculence, opportunely contrived, oppressive emptiness, opprobrious epithet, oracular utterance, oratorical display, ordinary delinquencies, organic assimilation, oriental spicery, originally promulgated, oscillatory movement, ostensible occupation, ostentatious display, outlandish fashion, outrageously vehement, outspoken encouragement, outstanding feature, outstretching sympathies, outward pomp, outworn creed, overbearing style, overestimated importance, overflowing sympathy, overhanging darkness, overmastering potency, overpowering argument, overshadowing dread, overstrained enthusiasm, overt act, overvaulting clouds, overweening sense, overwhelming solicitude, overworked drudge. End of section 23. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 24 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Dennis Sayers in Modesto, California. P. Pacific disposition, painful obstinacy, painstaking reticence, palatable advice, pallidly illumined, palpable originality, palpitating emotion, paltry hypocrisies, pampered darling, panic fear, panting eagerness, parabolic obscureness, paradoxical talker, paralyzing sentimentalism, paramount authority, parasitical magnificence, parental permission, paroxysmal outburst, particularly notable, partisan prejudice, passing panorama, passionate insistence, passive obedience, patchwork manner, patent example, paternal tenderness, pathetic helplessness, patient endurance, patriarchal visage, patriotic enthusiasm, peacefully propagated, peculiar piquancy. Piquancy means appealingly provocative, charming. Pecuniary privation, pedantic ineptitude. Pedantic means attention to detail or rules. pedestrian vigor, peerless raconteur. Raconteur means skilled storyteller. Peevish ingratitude, pending determination. Penetrating warmth, penitential cries. Penniless wanderer, pensive reflections. Perceptible difference, peremptory punishment. Peremptory means ending all debate or action. Perennial charm, perfect embodiment. Perfunctory inquiries, perilous expedient. Permanent significance, pernicious doctrine. Perpetual oscillation, perplexing problem. Persecuting zeal, persistent adherence. Personal predilection. Predilection means a preference. Persuasive eloquence. Prig. Pertinacious solemnity. Pertinacious means stubbornly persistent. Pertinent question. Perusing earnestness. Pervading tendencies. Perverse quaintness. Pessimistic skepticism. Pestiferous career. Pestiferous means evil or deadly, pernicious. Pet aversion. Petrified smile. Petticoat diplomacy. Pettifogging business. Petty pedantries. Pedantries mean attention to detail or rules. Phantom show. Philanthropic zeal. Philosophical acuteness. Phlegmatic temperament. Phlegmatic means calm, sluggish, unemotional. Phosphorescent shimmer. Photographic exactitude. Physical convulsion. Pictorial embellishments. Picturesque details. Piercing clearness. Pinchbeck dignity. Pinchbeck means a cheap imitation. Pining melancholy. Pioneering spirit. Pious platitudes. Piquant illusions. Piquant means attracting or delighting. Pitiable frenzy. Pitiless precision. Pivotal point. Placid stupidity. Plainly expedient. Plain-spoken rebuke. Plaintive cadence. Plastic mind. Plausible commonplaces. Playful wit. Pleasing reveries. Pleasurable excitement. Plenary argument. Plentiful harvest. Plighted word. Plighted means promised by a solemn pledge. Poignant clearness. Pointless tale. Poisonous counsels. Polished ease. Polite indifference. Political malcontent. End of section 24. This recording is in the public domain. Section 25 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox by Dennis Sayers. In Modesto, California, Fall 2006. Polluting taints. Pompous platitudes. Ponderous research. Pontifical manner. Popular resentment. Populous fertility. Portentous gulf. Positively deteriorating. Posthumous glory. Potential energy. Powerful stimulant. Practical helpfulness. Precarious path. Precautionary measure. Precipitous flight. Precise purpose. Precocious wisdom. Preconceived view. Predatory riders. Predestined spinster. Predominant habit. Pregnant hint. Preliminary assumption. Premature ripening. Premonitory symptoms. Preoccupied attention. Prepossessing appearance. Preposterous assertion. Prescient reflection. Prescient means perceiving the significance of events before they occur. Prescribed conditions. Presiding genius. Pressing necessity. Pretended surprise. Pretentious dignity. Preternatural sagacity. Preternatural means extraordinary, and sagacity means farsighted or wise. Pretty plaintiveness. Prevailing misconception. Priestly austerity. Primal energy. Prime factor. No integer factors, irreducible. That is, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, etc. Primeval silence. Primordial conditions. Princely courtesy. Prismatic blush. Pristine dignity. Private contempt. Privileged caste. Prized possession. Problematic age. Prodigally lavished. Prodigious variety. Productive discipline. Profane denunciation. Professedly imitated. Professional garrulity. Garrulity means excessive talkativeness. Proffered service. Profitable adventure. Profligate expenditure. Profound conviction. Profuse generosity. Projected visit. Prolegomenous babbler. Prolegomenous means preliminary discussion. Prolific outpouring. Prolix narrative. Prolix means wordy. Prolonged happiness. Promiscuous multitude. Promising scions. Scions are descendants. Prompt courage. Propagandist literature. Propelling impulse. Proper punctilio. Punctilio means a fine point of etiquette. Prophetic vision. Propitious moment. Propitious means auspicious or favorable. Proportionately vigilant. Proprietary sense. Prosaic excellence. Prosaic means dull and lacking excitement. Prospective success. Prosperity revival. Prostrate servility. Protoplasmic ancestors. Protracted agony. Proud destiny. Proverbial situation. Provincial prejudice. Provoked hostility. Prudential wisdom. Prurient desire. Prying criticism. Psychic processes. Public derision. Puerile fickleness. Puerile means immature or childish. Pugnacious defiance. Pulsating life. Punctilious care. Punctilious meaning precise or scrupulous. Pungent epigram. Puny dimensions. Purblind brutality. Purblind means partly blind, slow to understanding. Pure coincidence. Purgatorial fires. Puritanical primness. Purplish shadows. Purposed attempt. Purposeful drama. Pursuing fancies. Pusillanimous desertion. Pusillanimous meaning cowardly. Pyrotechnic outburst. End of section 25. Read by Dennis Sayers in Modesto, California for LibriVox, Fall 2006.
Section 26 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13, 2006. Quailing culprit. Quaint peculiarities. Qualifying service. Quavering voice. Queer tolerance. Quenchless despair. Querulous disposition. Questionable data. Questioning gaze. Quibbling speech. Quick sensibility. Quiescent melancholy. Quiet cynicism. Quivering excitement. Quixotic impulse. Quizzical expression. Quondam foe. Racial prejudice. Racy humor. radiant happiness, radical distinction, raging billows, rambling looseness, rampant wickedness, rancorous animosities, random preconceptions, rank luxuriance, ranting optimism, rapacious speculation, rapid transitions, rapturous adoration, rare endowment, rarefied humor, rashly overrated, rational discourse, ravenous eagerness, ravishing spectacle, raw composition, reactionary movement, ready sympathy, realistic portrayal, reanimating ideas, reasonably probable, rebellious thought, reciprocal influence, reckless lavishness, recognized authority, recondite description, reconstructive era, recovered composure, recumbent figure, recurring doubt, reddening dawn, redoubled activity, refining influence, reflective habits, refractory temper, refreshing novelty, regal countenance, regretful melancholy, regular recurrence, relatively mild, relaxed discipline, relentless justice, religious scruples, reluctant tolerance, remarkable sagacity. End of section 26. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 27 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser, read for LibriVox.org by Jordan Mueller. Remedial measure, remorseless logic, remote epoch, renowned achievement, repeated falsification, repelling vices, repentant sense, reprehensible action, repressed ardor, reproachful misgiving, repulsive spectacle, reputed disposition, requisite expertness, resentful flame, resilient spirit, resistless might, resolute daring, resonant gaiety, resounding blare, resourceful wickedness, respectful condescension, resplendent brightness, responsive throb, restless inquisitiveness, restorative influence, restricted meaning, resultant limitation, retaliating blows, retarding influence, retreating footsteps, revengeful scowl, reverent enthusiasm, revolting cynicism, revolutionary tradition, rhapsodical eulogy, rhetorical amplification, rhythmical movements, richly emblazoned, righteous indignation, rightful distinction, rigid propriety, rigorous reservation, riotous clamor, ripe reflection, rising misgivings, riveted attention, robust sense, rollicking mirth, romantic solitudes, rooted habits, roseate tints, rough brutality, roundabout approach, rousing chorus, royal exultations, rubicund tinge, rude awakening, rudimentary effort, rueful conclusion, ruffled feelings, rugged austerity, ruling motive, rumbling hoarseness, ruminating mood, rural imagery, rustic simplicity, rustling forest, ruthless commercialism. End of section 27. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 28 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13th, 2006. Sacerdotal preeminence. Sacred tenderness. Sacrilegious violence. Sacrosanct fetish. Sadly disconcerted. Sagacious mind. Sage reflections. Saintly serenity. Salient feature. Salutary amusement. Sanctimonious hypocrite. Sane observer. Sanguinary measures. Sanguine expectations. Sarcastic incredulity. Sardonic taciturnity. Satirical critic. Satisfying equipoise. Savage satirist. Scalding jests. Scandalous falsehood. Scant recognition. Scathing satire. Scattered distractions. Scholarly attainments. Scientific curiosity. Scintillating wit. Scoffing defiance. Scorching criticism. Scornful negligence. Scriptural exegesis. Scrubby foreland. Scrupulous fidelity. Sculptured sphinx. Scurrilous blustering. Searching eye. Secluded byways. Secret dismay. Sectarian sternness. Secure anchorage. Sedentary occupation. Seditious speaking. Seductive whisperings. Sedulously fostered. Seeming artlessness. Seething hate. Selective instinct. Self-conscious activity. Self-deprecating irony. Selfish vindictiveness. Self-same strain. Senile sensualist. Senseless gibberish. Sense abated. Sensitively courteous. Sensuous music. Sententious wisdom. Sentimental twaddle. Sepulchral quiet. Sequestered nook. Seraphic promiscuousness. Serene triumph. Serious resentment. Serpentine curves. Servile obedience. Sesquipedalian words. Settled dislike. Severe censure. Shabby imitation. Shadowy abstraction. Shady retirements. Shallow sophistry. Sham enthusiasm. Shambling gait. Shamed demeanor. Shameless injustice. Shapeless conformations. Shaping impulses. Sharp rebuke. Shattered reason. Sheepish look. Sheer boredom. Sheltering hypocrisy. Shifting panorama. Shimmering gaiety. Shining virtues. Shivering soul. Shocking rudeness. Shoreless sea. Shortening days. Shrewd suspicion. Shrewish look. Shrill dissonance. Shrunken wisp. Shuddering reluctance. End of section 28. This recording is in the public domain. Section 29 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13, 2006. Shuffling preliminaries. Shy obeisance. Sibilant oath. Sickening jealousy. Sidelong glance. Significant symbol. Silent agony. Silken filaments. Silly escapades. Silvery sea. Similar amplitude. Simple rectitude. Simulated rapture. Simultaneous acclamation. Sincere hospitality. Singular sensitiveness. Sinister forebodings. Sinuous movements. Skeptical contempt. Skillfully maintained. Skulking look. Slackened tension. Slavish imitation. Sledgehammer blows. Sleepless soul. Sleepy enchantment. Slender resource. Slight acceleration. Slovenly deportment. Slow stupefaction. Sluggish resolution. Slumbering stream. Smacking breeze. Small aptitude. Smiling repose. Smirking commonplace. Smoldering resentment. Smothered sob. Smug hypocrisy. Snappish impertinence. Sneering jibes. Snowy whiteness. Snug retreat. Soaring ambition. Sobbing wail. Sober melancholy. Social banalities. Sociological bearing. Soft allurement. Solemn emptiness. Solid knowledge. Solidifying substance. Solitary grandeur. Somber relations. Somewhat scandalized. Somnolent state. Sonorous simplicity. Sophistical argument. Soporific emanations. Sordid selfishness. Sorely beset. Sorrowful resignation. Soulless mechanism. Sounding verbiage. Sourly ascetic. Sovereign panacea. Spacious tracklessness. Sparkling splendor. Specialized skill. Specific characteristics. Specious artifice. Spectral fears. Speculative rubbish. Speechless surprise. Speedy extinction. Spendthrift prodigality. Spirited vindication. Spiritual dazzlement. Splendid irony. Splenetic imagination. Spontaneous challenge. Sporadic exception. Sportive gaiety. Spotless honor. Sprightly talk. Spurious enthusiasm. Squalid distress. Squandered talent. Squeamish taste. Staggering surprise. Stainless womanhood. Stale sciolism. Stalwart defiance. Stammered apology. Starched sterility. End of section 29. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 30 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Jordan Mueller. Starlit imminence. Startling eccentricity. Starving proletariat. Stately stride. Statesmanlike person. Statistical knowledge. Statuesque immobility. Staunch manhood. Steadfast obedience. Stentorian voice. Stereotyped commonness. Sterile hatred. Sterling sense. Stern defiance. Stiff conceit. Stifled convulsions. Still solitudes. Stilted bombast. Stimulating impression. Stinging reproach. Stinted endowment. Stipulated reward. Stock pleasantries. Stoic callousness. Stolid obstinacy. Stony stare. Storied traditions. Stormy passion. Stout assertion. Straggling association. Straightforward logic. Straightway vanished. Strained interpretation. Straitened circumstance. Strange wistfulness. Strenuous insistence. Striking diversity. Stringent statement. Strong aversion. Stubborn reality. Studious reserve. Stultified mind. Stunning crash. Stupendous magnitude. Stupid bewilderment. Sturdy genuineness. Subaltern attitude. Subconscious conviction. Subduing influence. Sublime anticipations. Submissive behavior. Subordinate pursuit. Subsidiary advantage. Substantial agreement. Subterranean sunlessness. Subtle sophistry. Subversive accident. Successfully dispelled. Successive undulations. Succinct phrase. Sudden perturbation. Sullen submission. Summary vengeance. Sumptuously decorated. Superabundant energy. Superannuated coquette. Superb command. Supercilious discontent. Superficial surliness. Superfluous precaution. Superhuman vigor. Superior skill. Superlative cleverness. Supernatural incident. Supine resignation. Suppliant posture. Suppressed excitement. Supreme exaltation. Surging multitude. Surly tone. Surpassing loveliness. Surprising intimacy. Surreptitious means. Sustained vigor. Swaggering bully. Swampy flatness. Swarming population. Sweeping assertion. Sweet peaceableness. Swelling magnitude. Swift transition. Swinging cadence. Symmetrical brow. Sympathetic insight. Syncopated tune. Synthetic judgment. Systematic interaction. End of section 30. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 31 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 12, 2006. Tacit assumption. Taciturn magnanimity. Tactical niceties. Tameless energy. Tangible realities. Tangled network. Tardy recognition. Tarnished reputation. Tart temper. Tasteful gratification. Tasteless insipidity. Tattered mendicant. Taunting accusation. Tawdry pretentiousness. Tearful sensibilities. Tearing gallop. Teasing persistency. Technical precision. Tedious formality. teeming population, temerarious assertion, temperamental complacency, tempered pathos, tempestuous breeze, temporary expedient, tenacious memory, tender solicitude, tense attention, tentative moment, tepid conviction, termagant wife, terrible sublimity, terrifying imprecations, terse realism, testamentary document, thankless task, thawing laughter, theological complexities, thirsting ear, thorny pathway, thorough uprightness, thoughtful silence, thoughtless whim, threadbare sentiment, threatened wrath, thrilling eloquence, throbbing pride, throneless monarch, thronging images, thundering rage, thwarted impulse, tideless depth, tigerish stealth, tightened ominously, timid acquiescence, tingling expectation, tinkling cymbal, tipsy jocularity, tiptoe curiosity, tireless egotism, tiresome braggadocio, titanic force, toilsome pleasure, tolerably comprehensive, tolerant indifference, tormenting thought, torn asunder, torpid faculties, tortuous labyrinth, tortured innocence, totally engrossed, touching pathos, tousled head, towering pride, traceable consanguinity, trackless forest, traditional type, tragic intensity, trailing sweetness, tranquil grandeur, transcendent power, transfiguring tints, transient emotion, translucent cup, transmuting touch, transparent compliment, treacherous intelligence, treasured possessions, trembling anxiety, tremendous domination, tremulous sense, trenchant phrase, trifling superfluity, trite remark, triumphant boldness, trivial conventionality, tropical luxuriance, troubled inertness, trudging wayfarer, trustworthy source, tumultuous rapture, tuneful expression, turbulent times, turgid appeal, twilight shadow, twittered sleepily, twofold bearing, typical excellence, tyrannical disposition. End of section 31. This recording is in the public domain. Section 32 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 12, 2006. Ubiquitous activity, ugly revelation, ulterior purpose, ultimate sanction, ultra-fashionable world, unabashed insolence, unabated pleasure, unaccountable perturbity, unaccustomed toil, unadorned style, unaffected pathos, unaffrighted innocence, unagitated abstraction, unalloyed satisfaction, unalterable determination, unanimous acclamation, unanswerable argument, unapologetic air, unappeasable resentment, unapproached supremacy, unassailable position, unassuming dignity, unattainable perfection, unavailing consolation, unavoidable propensities, unballasted eloquence, unbeaten track, unbecoming behavior, unbending reserve, unbiased judgment, unblemished character, unblinking observation, unblushing iteration, unbounded hospitality, unbridgeable chasm, unbridled fancy, unbroken continuity, uncanny fears, unceasing variation, unceremonious talk, uncertain tenure, unchallenged supremacy, unchanging affection, uncharitable ambition, uncharted depths, unchastised offense, unclouded splendor, uncomfortable doubt, uncommonly attractive, uncommunicable quality, uncomplaining endurance, uncomprehending smile, uncompromising dogmatism, unconcealed aversion, unconditioned freedom, uncongenial task, unconquerable patience, unconscious serenity, uncontrollable delight, unconventional demeanor, uncounted generations, uncouth gambols, uncritical position, unctuously belaud, undaunted defender, undazzled eyes, undefined anticipations, undeniable charm, underlying assumption, undeviating consistency, undignified peccadilloes, undiluted skepticism, undiminished relish, undimmed luster, undisciplined genius, undisguised amusement, undismayed expression, undisputed ascendancy, undistracted attention, undisturbed silence, undivided energies, undoubted authenticity, undue predilection. End of section 32. This recording is in the public domain. Section 33 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 12, 2006. Undulating hills, unduly troublesome, undying friendship, unearthly gladness, uneasy craving, unembarrassed scrutiny, unembittered sweetness, unending exactions, unenlightened zealot, unenvied insipidity, unequaled skill, unequivocally resented, unerring fidelity, unessential details, unexampled sweetness, unexhausted kindliness, unexpected confidence, unfailing courtesy, unfaltering glance, unfamiliar garb, unfathomable indifference, unfeigned assent, unfettered liberty, unflagging zest, unflattering truth, unflecked confidence, unfledged novice, unflinching zeal, unfolding consciousness, unforced acquiescence, unforeseen vicissitudes, unforgivable tragedy, unfounded conjecture, unfulfilled longing, ungainly figure, ungarnished reality, ungenerously resolved, ungenial temperament, ungovernable vehemence, ungracious temper, ungrudging tribute, unguessed riches, unhallowed threshold, unhampered expression, unhappy predecessor, unheeded beauties, unheroic measure, unhesitating faith, unhindered flight, unholy triumph, uniform blending, unimaginable bitterness, unimpassioned dignity, unimpeachable sentiment, unimpeded activity, uninstructed critic, uninterrupted process, unique personality, universal reprobation, unjust depreciation, unknown appellations, unlettered laborer, unlikely contingency, unlimited opulence, unlucky dissembler, unmanly timidity, unmastered possibility, unmeaning farce, unmeasured hostility, unmellowed dawn, unmelodious echoes, unmerciful plundering, unmingled consent, unmistakenly fabulous, unmitigated gloom, unmixed astonishment, unmodified passion, unmurmuring sea, unnecessary platitudes, unnumbered thousands, unobtrusive deference, unostentatious display, unpalatable truth. End of section 33. This recording is in the public domain. Section 34 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 12, 2006. Unparalleled atrocities, unpardonable error, unphilosophical dreamer, unpleasant excrescence, unprecedented advance, unprejudiced intelligence, unpretentious character, unprincipled violence, unprofitable craft, unpurchasable luxury, unqualified submission, unquenchable tenderness, unquestionable genius, unquestioning fate, unreasonable pretense, unreasoning distrust, unredeemable forfeit, unrefreshing sameness, unrelaxing emphasis, unrelenting spirit, unremembered winter, unremitting toil, unrepining sadness, unreproved admiration, unrequited love, unresentful disposition, unreserved assent, unresisted authority, unresolved exceptions, unresponsive gloom, unresting speed, unrestrained anger, unrestricted ease, unrivaled distinction, unruffled concord, unsatisfied yearning, unscrupulous adventurer, unseasonable apology, unseemly mirth, unselfish fidelity, unsettled trait, unshakable foundation, unshrinking determination, unslackened volubility, unsophisticated youth, unsparing abuse, unspeakable delight, unspiritual tone, unspoiled goodness, unstinted praise, unsullied virtue, unsurpassed purity, unswerving integrity, untamable energy, unthinkable hypothesis, untiring energy, untold calamity, untoward circumstances, untrammeled expression, untrodden woodland, untroubled repose, untuneful phrase, untutored mind, unusual audacity, unutterable sadness, unvarnished feeling, unwarranted limitation, unwasting energies, unwavering allegiance, unwearied diligence, unwelcome alliance, unwieldy bulk, unwilling homage, unwittingly mingled, unwanted kindness, unworldly foolishness, unworthy alliance, unyielding nature, uproarious laughter, upstart pretensions, useless fripperies, utmost scorn. End of section 34. This recording is in the public domain. Section 35 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 7, 2006. Vacant stupidity, vacillating obedience, vacuous ease, vagabondish spirit, vagrant wandering, vaguely discursive, vain contemplation, vainglorious show, valid objection, valuable acquisition, valueless assertion, vampire tongue, vanished centuries, vantage ground, vapid generalities, variable temperament, variegated career, vast advantage, veering purpose, vehement panting, veiled insolence, velvety lawn, venerable placidity, venomous passion, voracious journals, verbal audacities, verbose manner, verdant hope, verifiable facts, veritable triumph, vernacular expression, vernal charm, versatile grace, vexatious circumstances, vicarious virtue, vigilant sensibility, vigorous invective, vile desecrator, villainous inconsistency, vindictive sentiment, violent agitation, virgin grace, virile leadership, virtual surrender, virtuous disdain, virulent prejudice, visible embarrassment, visionary dreamer, vital interpretation, vitiated taste, vitriolic sneer, vivacious excitement, vivid portrayal, vociferous appeal, voiceless multitude, volatile fragrance, volcanic suddenness, voluble prose, voluminous biography, voluntary relinquishment, voracious animosity, votive wreath, vulgar prosperity, vulnerable foe. End of section 35. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 36 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Heather Lambert. Wabbling enterprise, waggishly sapient, wailing winds, wandering fancy, waning popularity, wanton butchery, warbling lute, warlike trappings, warning prophecy, warped purpose, warranted interference, wasteful prodigality, wavering courage, waxwork sex, wayward fancy, weakly imaginative, wearisome wordiness, wedded incompatibility, weighty argument, weird fascination, welcoming host, well-turned period, weltering current, whimsical touch, whirling confusion, whirring loom, whispering breeze, whistling winds, whited sepulchre, wholesome aspirations, wholly commendable, wicked ingratitude, wide signification, widespread acclaim, wild extravagance, willful waywardness, willing allegiance, willowy nothingness, wily antagonist, winding pilgrimage, windowless soul, winged fancies, winking stars, winning plaintiveness, winsome girlhood, wise dissertations, wistful entry, withering scorn, witnessing approval, witty expedient, wizard influence, woebegone countenance, woeful weariness, wolfish tendency, womanlike loveliness, wonderful affluence, wonted activity, wordy warfare, worthy achievement, wounded avarice, wrathful pugnacity, wretched effeminacy, wriggling disputant, writhing opponent. Why? Yawning space, yearning tenderness, yielding disposition, youthful ambition. Z. Zealous devotion, zigzag method, zoologically considered. End of section 36.
This recording is in the public domain.
Section 37 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser, read for LibriVox.org by Claire Gauger. Significant phrases: abashed and ashamed, abhorrence and repulsion, abilities and attainments, abject and hopeless, ably and vigorously, abrupt and perilous, absolute and eternal, absorbed and occupied, abstinence and self-denial, abstract and metaphysical, absurd and impertinent, abundant and sustained, abuse and slander, accentual and rhythmic, accidental and temporary, accomplished and popular, accurate and illuminating, achievement and character, acquisition and possession, active and aggressive, actual and immediate, acute and painful, admirable and accomplished, adorned and amplified, adroitness and judgment, adventurous and prodigal, advice and assistance, affable and courteous, affectation and coquetry, affectionate and warm-hearted, affluent and exuberant, affright and abhorrence, agencies and influences, ages and generations, aggrandizement and plunder, agreeable and ingenuous, aggressive and sullen, aghast and incredulous, agility and briskness, agitate and control, agony and despair, aids and auxiliaries, aim and purpose, airy and frivolous, alarm and uneasiness, alert and unsparing, all and sundry, allegiance and fidelity, alone and undistracted, alterations and additions, amazement and admiration, ambiguity and disagreement, ambition and determination. amiable and unpretending, ample and admirable, amusing and clever, analytical and critical, anarchy and chaos, ancient and venerable, anecdote and reminiscence, anger and fury, anguish and hopelessness, animated and effective, anomalies and absurdities, antagonism and opposition, antipathies and distastes, antiquated and obsolete, anxiety and trepidation, apathy and torpor, apologetic and uneasy, appalling and devastating, apparent and palpable, appearance and surroundings, apprehensive and anxious, appropriate and eloquent, approve and admire, apt and novel, archness and vivacity, ardent and aspiring, argument and inference, arid and unprofitable, arrangement and combination, arrogant and overbearing, artificial and elaborate, artistic and literary, artlessness and urbanity, ashamed and speechless, aspects and phases, aspiring and triumphal, assiduities and success, assimilated and combined, assagaged and pacified, astonished and curious, astound and perplex, athletic and nimble, atonement and forgiveness, atrocious and abominable, attacks and intrigues, attention and respect, attitudes and expressions, attractiveness and ability, audacity and skill, august and splendid, austere and icy, available and capable, avarice and cruelty, avidity and earnestness, awake and active, awe and reverence, awkwardness and crudity. End of section 37. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 38 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13, 2006. Babel and confusion. Backbone and sinew. Baffled and disappointed. Balanced and forceful. Barbarity and wickedness. Bards and sages. Base and unworthy. Beam and blaze. Bearing and address. Beautiful and majestic. Bedraggled and disappointed. Befogged and stupefied. Beliefs and practices. Bellowing and shouting. Benevolence and candor. Benign and hopeful. Bent and disposition. Benumbed and powerless. Bewildered and stupefied. Bigots and blockheads. Billing and cooing. Birth and breeding. Bite and sting. Bits and scraps. Bitter and disdainful. Black and solitary. Bland and ingenious. Blasphemous and profane. Bleak and unrelenting. Blend and harmonize. Blessing and benediction. Blind and unreasoning. Blundering and plundering. Blurred and confused. Bluster and vulgarity. Boast and assertion. Bold and haughty. Bombast and egotism. Bone and sinew. Boundless and unlimited. Bourgeois and snobbish. Brag and chatter. Bravado and cowardice. Brave and chivalrous. Breathless and reverential. Brevity and condensation. Bribery and corruption. Brief and pithy. Bright and vivacious. Brilliancy and grace. Brisk and enlivening. Broad and deep. Brooding and solemn. Brutal and degrading. Bulks and masses. bungling and trifling, businesslike and practicable, bustle and business, cajoled and bullied, calamity and sorrow, callous and impervious, calmness and composure, calumny and exaggeration, candor and kindness, cant and hypocrisy, capable and efficient, capacity and ability, capricious and unreasonable, career and occupation, cares and anxieties, carping and ungenerous, casual and transient, causes and circumstances, cautious and reticent, celebrated and praised, celerity and violence, ceremony and splendor, certain and verifiable, chafe and exasperate, chagrin and despondency, chance and opportunity, change and variety, chaos and confusion, character and temperament, characteristic and complete, charges and insinuations, charm and perfection, chaste and refined, cheap and convenient, checked and thwarted, cheerfulness and gaiety, cherish and guard, chief and paramount, chilled and stiffened, choleric and sanguine, churlishness and violence, citation and allusion, civility and communicativeness, civilized and cultured. End of section 38. This recording is in the public domain. Section 39 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13, 2006. Clamorous and wild. Claptrap and platitude. Clarity and straightforwardness. Classical and perspicuous. Clatter and clang. Clear and decisive. Cleverness and acuteness, clogged and dulled, clumsy and smudgy, coarse and grotesque, coaxed and threatened, coexist and correlative, cogent and conclusive, cohesion and sequence, cold and unemotional, comely and vivacious, comfort and security, command and threaten, common and familiar, commotion and annoyance, compact and complete, comparison and discrimination, compass and power, competent and experienced, complaints and imprecations, complaisance and readiness, complete and permanent, complex and various, composure and gracefulness, comprehensive and accurate, compression and pregnancy, conceal and deny, conceit and impertinence, conceived and consummated, concentrated and intensified, conception and treatment, concern and wonder, concise and emphatic, concrete and definite, condemned and upbraided, conditions and limitations, confession and doubt, confidence and loyalty, confusion and dismay, congratulations and welcomings, connection and interdependence, conquered and transformed, conquest and acquisition, consciously and purposely, consistent and harmonious, conspicuous and impressive, conspired and contrived, constant and intimate, constructive and vital, contemn and decry, contempt and indignation, contentment and serenity, continuous and undeviating, contorted and fantastic, contradictions and inconsistencies, contrast and comparison, contrivance and disguise, conventional and limited, cool and indifferent, copiousness and vivacity, cordial and cheerful, corruption and decay, costly and gorgeous, counselor and guide, countless and indescribable, courage and endurance, courted and fêted, courteous and sympathetic, coveted and deserved, coy and furtive, cramped and distorted, creative and inventive, credulity and ignorance, creeds and dogmas, crime and misdemeanor, crippled and maimed, crises and struggles, crisp and sparkling, critical and skeptical, crowded and jostled, crowned and sceptered, crude and primitive, cruel and rapacious, crumbling and shapeless, crushed and bewildered, cultured and refined, cumbrous and diffuse, cunning and cruelty, curious and inexpressible, curved and channeled, customs and manners, cynical and contemptuous. End of section 39. This recording is in the public domain. Section 40 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lisa Cho on September 13, 2006. Dangers and pitfalls. Daring and resolute. Dark and starless. Dart and quiver. Dashing and careless. Dates and details. Dazzled and confounded. Debased and demoralized. Debilitating and futile. Decencies and restraints. Deception and cruelty. Decided and definite. Declamation and delivery. Decline and decay. Deductions and inferences. Deep and subtle. Deface and injure. Defame and tarnish. Deference and concession. Defiant and antagonistic. Deficient and unskilled. Definite and memorable. Deft and offensive. Degraded and dishonored. Deliberate and effective. Delicate and lambent. Delight and consolation. Delusion and trickery. Demands and expectations. Demeanor and conduct. Demoralizing and enfeebling. Denial and defense. Dense and luminous. Denunciations and censures. Deplorable and baneful. Depravity and frivolity. Depressing and discouraging. Depth and richness. Derision and skepticism. Described and classified. Desecration and decay. Designs and activities. Desires and motives. Desolation and wretchedness. Dispatch and resolution. Desperation and defiance. Despise and satirize. Despoiled and destroyed. Despondency and melancholy. Despotism and coercion. destitution and misery, desultory and slipshod, detached and isolated, determined and courageous, detestable and intolerable, development and culture, devoted and unwavering, dictatorial and insolent, diction and pronunciation, differences and disputes, difficult and arduous, diffidence and constraint, diffuseness and warmth, dignified and austere, digressive and wanton. End of section 40. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 41 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Shirley Donahue. September 2006. Dilatory and hesitating. Diligent and sedulous. Dim and distant. Din and traffic. Directed and controlled, disagreeable and painful, disappointed and abashed, disapprobation and condemnation, disapproval and apprehension, discipline and development, discomfiture and degradation, disconcerted and dismayed, discontent and disquiet, discords and differences, discouraging and distressing, discovery and invention, discretion and moderation, disdain and mockery, disfigured and shapeless, disgrace and ruin, disgust and dismay, dishonor and ruin, disillusioned and ironical, disintegration and decay, disinterested and gracious, disjointed and voluble, dislike and disdain, dislocation and chaos, dismay and apprehension, dispirit and discourage, disposition and power, disquietude and uneasiness, dissolute and hateful, dissolve and disappear, distant and diverse, distended and distorted, distinctive and appropriate, distinguishing and differentiating, distress and humiliation, distrust and aversion, disturbed and anxious, diverging and contracting, docile and obedient, dogma and ritual, dominant and permanent, dormant and subdued, doubt and trepidation, dramatic and sensational, drastic and revolutionary, dread and terror, dreams and ambitions, dreariness and desolation, dregs and sediments, drill and discipline, drivelling and childish, drollery and ridicule, drooping and disconsolate, dubious and dangerous, dull and spiritless, dumb and nerveless, dupe and victim, duplicity and equivocation, dust and oblivion, duties and difficulties, dwarfed and obscured, dwindle and disappear. End of section 41. This recording is in the public domain. Section 42 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Shirley Donahue. September 2006. Eagerness and ecstasy, earnestness and animation, ease and lightness, ebb and flow, eclectic and assimilated, edifying and enchanting, education and skill, effective and competent, efficiency and success, egotism and bigotry, elaboration and display, elation and delight, elegance and gentility, elementary and simple, elevate and ennoble, eligibility and suitableness, elongated and narrow, eloquent and expressive, elusive and exquisite, embarrassed and concerned, embittered and despairing, embodiment and actualization, emerged and flowered, eminent and remarkable, emoluments and honors, emotion and passion, emphasize and magnify, employment and profession, encouragement and stimulus, energy and activity, enfeebled and exhausted, enfold and enwrap, engulfed and buried, enjoyment and satisfaction, enlightenment and progress, enraptured and amazed, enriched and ennobled, enslave and dominate, enterprising and intelligent, entertaining and diverting, enthusiasm and zeal, enticing and alluring, entire and complete, environment and training, envy and despair, ephemeral and feeble, episodes and interludes, epithet and description, equality and solidarity, equity and justice, erratic and confused, errors and infirmities, essential and predominating, estimable and agreeable, eternal and sublime, ethical and religious, ever and anon, evident and manifest, exactitude and completeness, exaggerate and distort, exaltation and enthusiasm, examination and comparison, examples and models, exasperations and paroxysms, excellent and worthy, exceptional and remarkable, excessive and unreasonable, excitable and irritable, exclusive and limited, excusable and justifiable, excreation and defiance, exertion and excitement, exhaustion and fatigue, exhibition and display, exhilarating and beneficial, exigency and requirement, expansive and digressive, expediency and utility, expensive and unprofitable, experience and skill, experiment and explorations, expert and vigorous, explanation and elucidation, explore and examine, expressions and exclamations, expressive and effective, exquisite and powerful, extent and importance, extraordinary and unexpected, extravagant and grotesque, extreme and morbid, exuberant and infectious. End of section 42. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 43 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Burgoyne. F. Fabulous and fabricated. Facile and brilliant. Facts and traditions. Faculties and powers. Faded and withered. Failures and misadventures. Faint and obscure. Fair and impartial. Faith and reverence. Fallacy and danger. False and fugitive. Fame and fortune. Familiar and gracious. Famous and foremost. Fancies and sentiments. Fanciful and chimerical. Fantastic and meretricious. Fascination and awe. Fashion and frivolity. Fastidious and exacting. Fatigued and careworn. Faults and delusions. Favours and kindnesses. Fear and bewilderment. Feasible and practical. Feebleness and folly. Feeling and passion. Felicitous and exquisite. Ferocious and mercenary. Fertility and vigour. Fervour and simplicity. Feverishly and furiously. Fickle and uncertain. Fidelity and zeal. Fierce and menacing. Fiery and controversial. Final and irreversible. Finish and completeness. Firm and decisive. First and foremost. Fitful and capricious. Fitting and appropriate. Fixity and finality. Flaming and mendacious. Flare and flicker. Flatness and insipidity. Flattery and toadism. Flexible and spontaneous. Flickering and ambiguous. Flighty and impetuous. Flippant and contemptuous. Florid and healthy. Flotsam and jetsam. Flow and fullness. Flowery and figurative. Fluctuating and transitory. Fluency and flippancy. Fluttering and restless, focus and concentrate, fogs and complications, foibles and follies, foiled and defeated, folly and indecorum, fools and underlings, force and effectiveness, formal and cold, formidable and profound, formlessness and exaggeration, fortitude and perseverance, foul and ominous, fragile and pale, fragments and morsels, fragrance and beauty, frailties and absurdities, frank and genial, free and independent, frequent and poignant, freshness and fragrance, fretful and timorous, friend and benefactor, frigid and pompous, frivolous and empty, froth and effervescent, frustrated and confounded, fuddled and contradictory, full and sonorous, fumbling and blundering, fuming and bustling, fun and satire, function and aim, fundamental and necessary, furrowed and ragged, furtive and elusive, fury and madness, fusing and fuming, futile and untrustworthy. End of section 43. This recording is in the public domain. Section 44 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Burgoyne. G. Gaiety and grace, gallant and proud, galling and humiliating, gaunt and ghastly, gay and genial, general and universal, generosity and prodigality, generous and humane, genial and refreshing, genius and reputation, gentle and amiable, genuine and infectious, germ and root, gesticulation and emphasis, ghastly and inconceivable, gifts and graces, gigantic and portentous, glamour and fascination, glare and pretension, glib and loquacious, glitter and glamour, gloomy and morose, glorious and gorgeous, glowing and exaggerated, glum and grim, goodness and rectitude, goodwill and merriment, gorgeousness and splendour, gossiping and grumbling, govern and overrule, grace and dignity, gracious and generous, gradual and progressive, graft and dishonesty, grand and sublime, grandeur and massiveness, grandiose and oracular, graphic and gorgeous, gratification and enjoyment, gratitude and generosity, gratuitous and ungracious, grave and stately, graveyards and solitudes, greatness and stability, greed and covetousness, grief and remorse, grim and sullen, grimaces and gesticulations, grope and fumble, grossness and brutality, grotesque and monstrous, grouped and combined, growth and development, guesses and fancies, guidance and inspiration, gush and hysteria, gusto and defect. H. Habits and humours, habitual and intuitive, hackneyed and tawdry, haggard and pale, handsome and amiable, haphazard and dangerous, happiness and pleasantness, harass and pursue, hard and unsparing, hardships and indignities, harmony and beauty, harsh and austere, hasty and unwarranted, hateful and loathsome, haughtiness and arrogance, hauteur and disdain, hazard and peril, hazy and indefinite, headstrong and foolish, healthy and vigorous, hearth and shrine, heartless and hypocritical, heat and impatience, heaviness and weariness, hecklings and interruptions, hectic and pitiful, heretics and schematics, heritage and privilege, heroism and wisdom, hesitation and irresolution, hideous and grotesque, high and conscientious, hilarity and mirth, hints and suggestions, history and tradition, hither and thither, hoarse and rumbling, hobbies and eccentricities, hollowness and unreality, holy and prayerful, homeliness and simplicity, honestly and confessedly, honours and emoluments, hooted and mobbed, hopes and prospects, horror and ghastliness, hospitality and magnificence, hubbub and confusion, huge and unwieldy, humane and sympathetic, humility and devoutness, humours and singularities, hurry and bustle, hushed and still, husks and phantoms, hypocrisy and impudence. End of section 44. This reading is in the public domain. Section 45 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Burgoyne. Ideas and achievements, idle and presumptuous, ignoble and shabby, ignominy and misfortune, ignorance and superstition, illiterate and unfit, ill-tempered and unjust, illuminative and suggestive, illustrative and typical, images and impressions, imagination and memory, embitter and exasperate, imitators and disciples, immature and unpromising, immediate and instantaneous, immensity and intricacy, imminent and terrible, immovable and unchangeable, impalpable and spiritual, impassioned and energetic, impatient and restless, imperfection and fallibility, imperil and destroy, imperious and ruthless, impertinent and personal, impinging and inexorable, implacable and destructive, important and formidable, imposed and enforced, impossibilities and absurdities, impressible and plastic, improvement and progress, imprudent and thoughtless, impulse and indignation, inaccessible and audacious, inactive and supine, inadequate and misleading, inapplicable and alien, inarticulate and confused, inborn and native, incensed and alarmed, inchoate and tentative, incoherent and inconclusive, incompetence and ignorance, incomplete and erroneous, incongruity and absurdity, inconvenient and troublesome, incorrigible and irrepressible, incredulous and mortified, indefatigable and irresistible, indefinite and vague, independent and democratic, indifference and brevity, indigence and obscurity, indignation and chagrin, indirectly and unconsciously, indispensable and irreplaceable, indistinct and misty, indolence and indifference, indomitable and dogged. End of section 45. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 46 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser. Read for LibriVox.org by Julian Jameson. Endorsed and applauded. Indulge and cherish. Industrious and vigilant. Ineffective and bungling. Inert and uncertain. Inevitable and assured. Inexhaustible and indomitable. Inexperienced and timid. Infallible and disdainful. Inference and suggestion. Infinite and eternal. Inflexible and unchanging. Influence and authority. Informed and competent. Ingenious and eloquent. Ingratitude and cruelty. Inharmonious and irregular. Injustice and inhumanity. Innocence and fidelity. Innuendo and suggestion. Inopportune and futile. Insanely and blindly. Inscrutable and perplexing. Insecurity and precariousness. Insensibly and graciously. Insignificant and transitory. Insincere and worthless. Insipid and silly. Insistent and incongruous. Insolence and absurdity. Inspiring and animating. Instant and momentous. Instinctive and rational. Insulted and thwarted. Intangible and indefinable. Integral and indestructible. Integrity and honor. Intelligence and insight. Intense and overpowering. Intentness and interest. Interesting and engrossing. Intimate and familiar. Intolerant and bumptious. Intractable and untamable. Intricate and endless. Intrusive and unmannerly. Intuitive and axiomatic. Invasion and aggression. Invective and innuendo. Investigation and research. Invidious and painful. Inviolate and unscathed. Invisible and silent. Involuntary and automatic. Irksome and distasteful. Irrational and excessive. Irregular and intermittent. Irreligious and immoral. Irremediable and eternal. Irrepressible and insistent. Irreverence and ingratitude. Irritable and churlish. Isolated and detached. End of section 46. This recording is in the public domain.
Section 47 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser, read for LibriVox.org by Dave Henderson on March 7th, 2007. Jabber and chatter, jagged and multifarious, jargon and absurdity, jaundiced and jealous, jeer and scoff, jeopardy and instability, jests and sarcasms, jocular and vivacious, jostle and stumble, joy and felicity, jubilant and boastful, judgment and discretion, judicious and acute, juggled and manipulated, jumble and confuse, juncture and circumstance, jurisdiction and authority, justice and virtue, juvenile and budding, keen and pertinacious, kind and forbearing, kindle and intensify, kindred and analogous, kingly and autocratic, knavish and tyrannical, knowledge and conviction, known and recognized, labor and drudgery, lame and impotent, lamentable and depressing, languid and indifferent, large and opulent, lassitude and languor, latent and lifeless, latitude and scope, laudable and deserving, laughable and grotesque, lavish and wasteful, lawlessness and violence, laxity and forbearance, laziness and profligacy, leafage and fruitage, learning and austerity, legends and traditions, legitimate and logical, leisure and tranquility, lengthy and diffuse, lenient and sympathetic, lethargy and sloth, levity and gaiety, liberal and ample, liberty and freedom, license and laxity, likely and plausible, limited and abbreviated, listless and inert, literal and exact, literary and artistic, lithe and sinewy, lively and poignant, loathsome and abject, lofty and sonorous, logical and consistent, loquacity and exuberance, loss and deterioration, loud and passionate, loving and reverential, low and groveling, loyal and devoted, lucidity and vividness, lucky and propitious, lucrative and advantageous, ludicrous and detestable, lugubrious and unfortunate, lukewarm and indifferent, lull and silence, luminous and keen, lure and captivate, lurid and fiery, luscious and lasting, luster and resplendence, lusty and big-sounding, luxury and pomp. End of section 47. This recording is in the public domain. Section 48 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser, read for LibriVox.org by Dave Henderson, March 8, 2007. Madness and folly, magical and secret, magnificent and luxurious, majestic and imposing, malice and revenge, malignity and spitefulness, manifold and complex, manly and powerful, manner and conduct, marvels and mysteries, massive and compact, masterly and convincing, materialistic and sordid, maternal and filial, maudlin and grotesque, maxims and morals, meager and bare, mean and debasing, meaning and significance, means and materials, mechanical and monotonous, meddling and muddling, meditative and sympathetic, meek and manageable, melody and softness, memorable and glorious, menace and superciliousness, merciful and chivalrous, merciless and unpitying, merit and virtue, mighty and majestic, mild and virtuous, mince and temporize, minds and memories, minuteness and fidelity, mirth and joviality, misdemeanors and improprieties, misery and degradation, misrepresented and reviled, misty and indefinite, mobile and expressive, mockery and imposture, moderate and cautious, modes and methods, modest and retiring, molding and upbuilding, momentary and languid, momentous and appalling, monopoly and injustice, monotony and indecorum, monstrous and insupportable, moody and brooding, moral and religious, morbid and irritable, motionless and commanding, motives and aims, mud and mire, muddled and incoherent, murmurs and reproaches, muscularity and morality, mutable and fleeting, mute and insensate, mutilated and disfigured, muttering and murmuring, mutual and friendly, mysterious and incomprehensible, mystic and wonderful. End of section 48. This recording is in the public domain. Section 49 of 15,000 Useful Phrases by Grenville Kleiser, read for LibriVox.org by Dave Henderson, March 8, 2007. Nagging and squabbling, nameless and obscure, narrow and timorous, natural and spontaneous, nauseous and disgusting, neatness and propriety, necessarily and essentially, needs and demands, nefarious and malevolent, negations and contradictions, neglect and evade, negotiate and bargain, nerve and fiber, neutral and colorless, nicety and precision, nimble and airy, noble and powerful, nodding and blinking, noisy and scurrilous, nonsense and absurdity, nooks and corners, notable and conspicuous, noted and distinguished, noteworthy and intelligible, notoriety and prominence, nourish and foster, novelty and freshness, novice and ignoramus, nucleus and beginning, nugatory and ineffectual, nullify and destroy, number and variety, numerous and important, oaths and revilings, obdurate and impenitent, obedient and duteous, obeisance and submission, objectionable and inexpedient, obligation and dependence, obliquity and hypocrisy, oblivious and insensible, obloquy and detraction, obnoxious and odious, obscure and enigmatical, obsequies and panegyrics, obsequious and conciliating, observations and reflections, obstacles and disasters, obstinate and stupid, obstreperous and noisy, obtrusive and vulgar, obtuse and imbecile, obvious and palpable, occasional and contingent, occult and hidden, occupations and habits, odd and dismal, odious and oppressive, offensive and aggressive, official and authoritative, oily and servile, old and decrepit, ominous and untrustworthy, omnivorous and sordid, oneness and unity, onerous and perplexing, open and inviting, opinions and hypotheses, opportunism and inconsistency, opposite and discordant, oppressed and sullen, optimistic and reassuring, opulence and magnitude, oracular and occult, order and uniformity, organic and rational, organization and system, origin and discovery, original and attractive, ornate and variegated, ostensible and explicit, ostentatiousness and gaiety, outlines and appearances, outrageous and scandalous, overburdened and confused,